All right, man, peace. So one of the main storylines of this current NBA offseason is exactly when Mr. LeBron James, NBA legend and future Hall of Famer, would decide to come down off of his throne and allow Luke Walton to kiss his ring and kiss his robe. And recently, LeBron James finally decided to meet up with Luke Walton, assistant coach Luke Walton, and tell Luke Walton exactly how this season was going to go, what the playing time was going to be for the various players, and exactly when he needed Luke Walton to come over to his house every Sunday afternoon and hand wash his cars. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
According to Ramona Shelburne, over the weekend, he also had his first meeting.
Yo, what's up with Brandon Ingram, man? It's been 3 years now, and Brandon Ingram's weight still matches height. Brother's 6'9", 69 pounds, looking like El DeBarge.
Meeting with his new head coach, Luke Walton. Before the two had apparently only texted, they didn't even speak before LeBron chose the Lakers on July 1st.
The reason why LeBron James had not spoken to Luke Walton for this period of time is because Luke Walton is inconsequential. He's irrelevant. Every team that LeBron James is on is going to run the same offensive system. The coach really has no say in what system is going to be run, especially a coach like Luke Walton, who pretty much is going to be a lame duck. He would have been fired already were it not for the fact that he has close ties with the owner of the LA Lakers, that being Jeannie Buss. Luke Walton is not Magic Johnson's guy. If Magic had his way, most likely Luke Walton would have been fired and they would have hired David Fizdale. That's what I believe Magic Johnson's plan was, but Jeannie Buss most likely told him no. Fortunately for Magic, they were able to bring in LeBron anyway because there are many reasons why LeBron James came to LA in the first place. He had to make sure that he cemented a lot of his connections in Los Angeles because he does plan on maximizing his earning potential in the entertainment industry, among other reasons why he has decided to move out to the LA area. But meeting up with Luke Walton is not a priority for LeBron James. He knows that most likely Luke is not going to last the season, especially if the Lakers get off to a bad start.
Walton, in a nutshell, saying he can work well with the qualities LeBron brings to the table, so...
Oh, really? So Luke Walton has declared that he can work well with the qualities that LeBron James brings to the table. Well, what if LeBron James went into the meeting with Luke Walton and said, look, bitch, this is what we're going to do. I don't give a shit about winning, and I don't give a shit about you. You think that Luke Walton would have left the meeting and said, I think that I cannot work with LeBron James, or do you think he would have said the same thing? Who knows? LeBron might have walked into the meeting and said just that. Might have walked into the meeting and said, I want you to open up your phone and give me your girlfriend's phone number. And understand that after tonight, she's never going to feel the same to you again. All right? Because what's yours is mine now. I run this shit. If LeBron has said all that, Luke Walton's still going to say he thinks that LeBron has all the qualities that he likes to work with. I mean, please. Luke Walton is a butler right now.
So, how should Walton coach LeBron? We'll start with you, Ryan.
If you're Luke Walton, you got to draw a line in the sand. And you got to show LeBron.
What line in the sand? If you're Luke Walton, you have to make a sand castle of LeBron James's face. Ain't no lines in the sand.
Show LeBron James that you're the coach and he's the player. Now, yes, you'll rely on him as a captain. You'll ask his opinion on certain things. But you got to let LeBron James know, go play basketball. And most of all, when LeBron's not playing defense, when LeBron misses an assignment, he's got to hold him strongly accountable. Luke Walton's job is in jeopardy. Let's not sugarcoat this.
Luke Walton's job is in jeopardy either way. There's nothing to sugarcoat about that. LeBron James has been a coach killer at basically every stop in his career other than in Miami. And from all reports, he wanted to have Eric Spoelstra fired, but Pat Riley shut him down.
The Lakers need to win a championship. Maybe not this year, but going into next year. And if Luke Walton...
This season will be an introductory season for LeBron James. He'll lead the Lakers to somewhere around 51 or 52 victories. They'll most likely be anywhere from a 3 seed to a 6 seed in the Western Conference, depending on how well the other teams play. And they'll most likely get to the second round. LeBron will be given a little bit of a mulligan for this season. And the Kobe Bryant fangirls that are headquartered in LA are going to make his life a living hell if he does not win at least one championship with the LA Lakers.
Luke Walton can't maintain control of LeBron James, or at least work with him and control that team. he won't be the coach too much longer. And that's something he's got to do. And he's got to come to grips with, if they're going to fire me, if I'm not going to be here, I will have left this seat being myself, being the best Luke Walton I can be, rather than just conforming to something that LeBron may want. Because I know as a former player, we see something, we're emotionally bent on something in the game, but there's a reason that coaches do the work. They put the game plans together, they read the scouting report, they watch hours and hours of film. And not to take anything from LeBron James' IQ, you gotta let the coach be the coach. And if you're Luke...
Ryan Hollins, LeBron James is going into his 16th season. He's been publicly feted by many of your compatriots at ESPN, as well as other sports networks. He's been told that he's arguably the most brilliant basketball player in the history of the league. To be quite frank with you, his ego has run amok for a very long time. He does have an exquisite basketball IQ, but due to the fact that he's been unchecked for most of his life, he's not had the discipline that's necessary to allow him to transcend a lot of his shortcomings. At least the mental, strategic discipline that he would need to be able to execute at a high level against basketball teams that have a high IQ. That's why his kryptonite has always been the San Antonio Spurs, the Golden State Warriors, teams that are exquisitely coached. They always outperform him in the biggest moments because he's never had a coach other than Eric Spoelstra and Pat Riley who have told him, this is what you're going to do.
Luke, you go down swinging.
That's the advice that you would give Luke Walton. And I appreciate that advice. I truly do. I think you're right, although I think you're unrealistic.
Agreed.
Do you think that advice will be possible? Do you think it's possible for Luke Walton to do what you just said? I'm being honest. I'm asking you a sincere question, Ryan. Do you think that can be done in a relationship between Luke Walton and LeBron James?
Not possible. And the only reason why Tyronn Lue felt like he could take LeBron James aside and speak to him a certain way is because Tyronn Lue had built up so much equity all across the NBA as a very prominent assistant coach and someone that top-level players in the league had always respected in regards to his understanding of the game.
It's going to have to be done. Yes, I believe it can be done. Listen, I spent time in the locker room with Luke Walton. He's one of the most liked personalities in basketball. He's a great teammate of mine, and he has a great rapport with players. But this relationship with LeBron James is dangerous because if you cater to LeBron too much, LeBron and you now separate yourself from the rest of the team.
I mean, your analysis is great.
Well, Ryan Hollins, here's the conundrum that you're in. You state that if you as Luke Walton do not put your foot down with LeBron James, you and LeBron James separate yourself from the rest of the team. Well, LeBron James is going to be separate from the rest of the LA Lakers squad that he's playing with this season regardless. The real problem is going to be not just the dynamic between Luke Walton and LeBron James, but whether or not Luke Walton is going to have the gumption to put his foot down with less prominent players who oftentimes are going to be even more combative than we would expect LeBron James to be. That being players like Rajon Rondo and Lance Stevenson. He's going to need to have a LeBron James on his side. So I think that it may be a tactical error to declare to LeBron James, you being a relative neophyte head coach who's never even made the playoffs and really does not have much of a track record, even as an assistant. People make a big deal about how he led the Golden State Warriors to a 37-4 record or whatever the record was. That team was running on automatic, and he has not shown any real movement on this franchise. I mean, the Lakers won 35 games last year, and one could say that we could expect another quantum leap this season even without LeBron James. But LeBron is looking at him as a nobody. He's looking at him as an errand boy. That's the bottom line of it. LeBron will give him about a half season to show that he has even a modicum of expertise in regards to the X's and O's. And after that, LeBron is going to take over. He's not going to care what Luke Walton thinks. Luke Walton is going to be forced to undergo the LeBron James experience. He will most likely be devoured by LeBron sometime before the All-Star break, but we'll see.
Your analysis is fine. I'm beginning to understand you to a greater degree, and I think today's show has been a real source of enlightenment for me on some of the issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. It's great to be an optimist. I think you are somebody who's a blind faith follower. You know, whether or not it's Le'Veon Bell needs to go for bigger dollars in the offseason, something that's against all odds, or the Raptors need to go for 1 year of Kawhi, which is blind faith that you could keep him.
I can't wait till he gets traded.
Or that Luke Walton's going to be able to actually accomplish this relationship you suggest with him for LeBron James. Because the truth of the matter is, a realist would look at this and say, here's what's going to happen. It's a partnership. It's a partnership at best that Luke Walton can hope for.
Absolutely.
LeBron James and Luke Walton were in the same draft class, 2003. LeBron James, you're telling me, is going to be capable of looking over at a guy after having won 3 championships himself, having been in the finals for 8 straight years, and be subservient, be second fiddle, take his advice, have him ignore LeBron's advice, have him take cues or give the rest of the team cues that he might disagree with, because those are all the things that are part of a relationship like the one you described. And that's right. I agree with you. That's the way a relationship between a coach and a player should work. Every successful organization works that way. This is unique. There are only a handful of guys that could accomplish the relationship you just described with LeBron James. And there's some of the guys that he has worked with in the past. He could do it with a guy like Phil Jackson. I think he could do it with a guy like Greg Popovich.
That's why I disagree with you, sir. And I think that LeBron James has shown that he's all talk and no action when it comes to his quote-unquote willingness to be coached. Many of LeBron James' super fans have reiterated ad nauseum all over the internet and social media that we can't hold LeBron accountable for so many of his finals losses because he's never been under the supervision of elite head coaching. Well, that's almost like a chicken or the egg dynamic. Has LeBron James not been as successful as one could say he should have been because he hasn't had elite head coaching? Or has he not had elite head coaching because he does not want to allow that to happen? He does not want to have anyone take away from the credit that he would receive if he were to conquer the opponent all by himself. That means that he can't be under a Greg Popovich. He can't be under a Phil Jackson, coaches who would force him to become a part of a system, a collective, when in reality he wants to be the lead singer in the rock band. All you are his background singers and dancers. He does not want to play all together as one. That is where I align him with a Wilt Chamberlain, with a Shaquille O'Neal. Now even Shaq was able to ingratiate himself, was able to implement himself inside of a real system, but only after about 10 years of playing in the NBA, he became so desperate. Well, really about 8 years, because I think it was in his 8th season that he won a championship. Well, please keep in mind that Shaq was raised in a military household. He attended college, I believe, for 3 years. And it was still difficult for him because of his personality type to become a part of a system, but he was forced to out of desperation. LeBron James is that wonderkind who was never forced to understand that even though you're a genius, you still can be taught certain things. And it does not do him any good service when you have NBA legends like a Magic Johnson or an Isaiah Thomas talk about how great LeBron is despite never having been coached. I think that it's even more glaring that there should be a correlation that many of us should note between his failures and the lack of head coaching that he's gotten, most likely because he's not ready to receive it. After a while, a horse that's accustomed to running wild on the prairie cannot be domesticated. You can't throw a saddle on that horse, especially once it gets old enough. And that's the predicament that LeBron James is in.
He probably could do it with a guy like Rick Carlisle, you played for, who's won a championship and who's a top-down type leader. He did it with Spoelstra, but Pat Riley was in-house as well, and that's another legend and another somebody you would defer to when it comes to decision-making. I think it's too much, an unrealistic, blind act of faith to say that can be accomplished between Luke Walton and LeBron James. Go ahead.
So you're telling me he's going to be fired then?
You're
telling me that Luke Walton's going to be fired because if he...
Well, that's what I'm telling you.
If he plans on having a partnership with LeBron James, he'll be fired because Los Angeles has dreams, aspirations, goals of a championship. And if you mean to tell me that LeBron James will somehow be buddy-buddy with the coach, or that LeBron even wants a buddy-buddy circumstance with it.
LeBron James is like a modern liberal female. He doesn't know what the hell he wants. He does not want a coach like Luke Walton trying to put him in his place, but he also does not want Luke thinking that they're going to be partners. That's why it's so rough to coach LeBron James. We saw what happened to Tyronn Lue. Tyronn Lue damn near had to be hospitalized from the stress.
With the head coach, you're lying to yourself. I've been in the locker room with young coaches, with Ty Lue, the same guy who we played pickup ball and competed against in the NBA. Played and coached by a guy by the name of J.B. Bickerstaff, who's actually on staff and younger than some of the players in the locker room at that time.
Okay.
So age has nothing to do with Luke Walton coming in and commanding.
How about accomplishment?
That's the only way they get a championship. That's the only way they get a championship if Luke Walton steps in and coaches the team.
Listen,
and what you do, Will.
I'm not saying Luke's going to be fired.
Can I give you a perspective?
I'm saying that. And no disrespect to Mr. Ryan Holland, some of the comparisons that he used with J.B. Bickerstaff. J.B. Bickerstaff, for the most part, has been considered an interim head coach, a placeholder. And at no time has he ever coached a player anywhere near as prominent as LeBron James. So there's no correlation there. His analogy was very poor.
For the locker room, if LeBron James is essentially coaching the team, a partnership, because if you're saying he's partnering with Luke, means that Luke isn't doing his job and LeBron is coaching the rest of the players. Now you separate and divide. And instead of LeBron being close with the teammates, the guys who he's going to have to be on the floor and win with, he's going to be on the other side, on the coaching side. So now...
I disagree with that, sir. As a matter of fact, as we all know, LeBron James has always made great attempts to ingratiate himself with his teammates at a very two-dimensional, flat level. There's nothing of depth there when it comes to LeBron and his relationship with his teammates, but while he's there, he likes to buy them suits and headphones and things of that nature, make up stupid-ass handshakes, etc. And he's able to convince a lot of the more inexperienced members of his teams that he's actually their friend. That's why they get their feelings hurt so much when he just packs up and leaves. It's like some chick who comes home and sees that her man has left her. He packed up all his bags while she was at work and just left. And before she left for work, they were talking about getting married, buying a house and everything. And she comes home and he's just gone. That's how a lot of these former teammates of LeBron James feel about him. We all remember how Cleveland reacted when LeBron made his first appearance back in Cleveland when he joined the Miami Heat. It wasn't just the fans that were very upset. Even his former teammates on Cleveland were very upset. Remember, Mo Williams was extremely emotional about LeBron, and Boobie Gibson as well. So it's very clear that LeBron James is a manipulator when it comes to his teammates. And I don't think that LeBron teaming up with Luke Walton in a quasi so-called partnership is going to have an effect on LeBron's synergy with his teammates, because the synergy is not really going to be anything of substance or long-lasting anyway. They're just there to do their part and make sure that the great LeBron James gets exalted.
But now I can't trust LeBron. I can't have a conversation with him as a teammate, and now you lose your team.
Okay, listen, man. I don't disagree with all of your analysis. What we're debating is actually what's going to happen, not what should happen, right?
Agreed.
Right?
What's going to happen, Will?
Well, I'm not going to say Luke Walton gets fired, because I do think he has a couple of things working for him.
So they win a championship? They win a championship with the partnership as a coach. So is that what you're saying? Because I'm trying to stick you to this, because I don't know what you're saying right now.
Well, try listening. We'll get there, okay?
You did a lot of talking. I've been listening. I don't know.
I know you don't know. Luke Walton is doing all the right things, I think. He's interviewing Spoelstra. He's interviewing Ty Lue. He's interviewing Richard Jefferson, Channing Frye. He's getting the LeBron relationship from all angles. I think that's a good step. Here's, I think, the source of hope for Luke Walton. He can possibly have a situation like the one LeBron had in Miami that did result in championships, that wasn't necessarily a Greg Popovich, a Phil Jackson type
that was
leadership.
A partnership?
It was Spoelstra, but Pat Riley was in the building.
Let me ask, was that a partnership?
No, don't ask for a moment. Just listen for a moment.
Thank you, Will Kane. And Will Kane is trying to make accurate points, but Ryan Hollins is moving according to his emotions, which is consistent with Will Kane's original assertion that a lot of what Ryan Hollins was saying was based in idealism as opposed to realism. There's a reason why LeBron James' 4 years in Miami were by far his most productive, because that's the only stop where he was actually coached. And once again, we'll never know how great a coach Erik Spoelstra actually could have been considered, because he was not able to hold on to that high-level talent for a long period of time. And beyond that, no, Erik Spoelstra was not a partner with LeBron James. LeBron was put in his place by Pat Riley, and that's also the reason why LeBron James eventually fled. As I've been saying for a long time, this notion that LeBron James has never had great coaching, and what if he was under Greg Popovich's tutelage, LeBron James would rather cut all his hair off of his head before being coached by Greg Popovich and actually having to give credit to a coach for winning championships.
It was Spoelstra with Pat Riley behind him. There was the voice of authority, the gravitas, the accomplishment in the building. That also exists in Los Angeles. That is in the form of Magic Johnson. So the key for Luke Walton, I think, will be this. How much are Magic Johnson and Luke Walton in lockstep together? How much are they a partnership? If that works, then Luke can manage a relationship with LeBron, because there will always be somebody whose voice is carrying down that sense of authority and gravitas.
Hey, well, you're talking a lot, but you're still not saying nothing.
No, he said what needed to be said. You just don't comprehend it because you're stuck from your perspective of being a role player on numerous teams in the NBA. And you're worried about how everyone else, all the ancillary pieces on a team, are going to feel about LeBron James. And that's the reason why you've never been on a championship team, Ryan Hollins, because championship teams will tell you that the first thing that role players have to do is take their primary concerns, take their own personal issues, and leave them to the side. You have to understand that there is going to be a separation between the star players and the role players in order for the team to win.
Because Magic Johnson wants a championship. If Luke Walton isn't the guy, or if Luke Walton, as you would perceive, is going to have a partnership with LeBron, it's not going to happen. LeBron don't want that. As a player, we know sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. And
Ryan Hollins, you were never anybody's worst enemy. I won't even say that you were your own worst enemy. Brother, you were sitting on the end of the bench. You keep trying to utilize some type of personal perspective in regards to this issue, and it's not relevant. Almost all great dynastic teams have had partnerships between the best players and the coach. Michael Jordan had a partnership with Phil Jackson, and the reason why that team was so successful was because Judd Buechler and Randy Brown, they were not concerned that Phil Jackson was speaking to Michael Jordan in the corner and nobody else could hear what they were saying. They didn't care about that. Phil Jackson would say things to Jordan and Pippen, but primarily Jordan. Jordan would take it to Pippen. Pippen would take it to Dennis Rodman or Kukoc, and that was the chain of command that would go down the line from there. On dysfunctional teams, you have the 12th man on the end of the bench worried that the star player is talking to the coach. That's why those teams don't win. That's why the LA Clippers couldn't win when Chris Paul was there, because he and Doc Rivers would talk and the rest of their players were worried about how come Chris Paul was in the office with Doc Rivers. These are the things that happen on teams that don't win. And Ryan Hollins doesn't get that. So Luke Walton and LeBron James will have a partnership whether Luke Walton likes it or not, because no, he's not going to put his foot in the sand against LeBron James. That's not going to happen. He may try it down the line, especially if he senses that LeBron James has a modicum of respect for his coaching ability. He may try it, but I don't see him ever getting anywhere near as authoritative with it as Ty Lue got.
And you know what? At the end of the day, LeBron James has a deep level of respect for Eric Spoelstra because he stepped up and coached him. You know who else got hired?
Yeah, LeBron James has such a deep level of respect for Eric Spoelstra that he tried to get him fired his first year there on the team, and Pat Riley shut his ass down.
Who else got to step into the position in Cleveland? Tyronn Lue. Because in the locker room with Ty Lue, whether you love him or hate him, he's always going to tell you what he sees and what's best for the team, whether you want to hear it or not. So that's the reason why Ty Lue was even put in the position that he was in. And
Ty Lue also knows that he can become an assistant coach on probably 20 teams in the NBA if he gets fired tomorrow.
And you know what Luke Walton's going to have to risk?
And let me say this also. Another reason why Ty Lue was not scared to tell LeBron James about himself is because I think that Ty Lue got exasperated to the point where he didn't give a shit if he got fired.
Being on SportsCenter the next day because LeBron James had it out with him or had a heated debate on the bench and yelled at him because they didn't see eye to eye on something. But Luke Walton has to do that to earn that respect.
I wish the best for Luke Walton. He's in a tough spot.
Partnership.
I agree with you, sir. Almost beyond a tough spot. Borderline impossible. Because first off, Luke Walton has to win over one of the toughest players to coach in the NBA, a player with non-pareil talent and skill set who oftentimes believes that he knows more than the coach. And then on top of that, you have an even greater player than LeBron James in the front office in a Magic Johnson, and you're not his guy to begin with. So I just don't see how Luke Walton makes it through the season.
Ship or not?
I don't know how he does it.
Oh, gosh, you're something else. So soft
I don't know
this
how he
segment. You're so soft this segment. Gosh.
Staying with the Lakers, we've been...
But anyway, that's basically it on this situation with LeBron James and Luke Walton. I would love to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting to watch as Luke Walton was forced to crawl over to LeBron on all fours and kiss his red slipper. But anyway, peace.